Welcome to the CoinGecko Podcast. For today's episode, we have the honor of welcoming Professor Aleksandar Kuzmanovic, co-founder and chief architect of bloXroute.
Thank you.
Yeah, so a little bit of Professor. Professor Kuzmanovic is a net neutrality expert and full professor in the Department of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science at Northwestern University. Professor Kuzmanovic's work includes writing a TCP/LP protocol deployed in Linux that allowed bulk data transfers without compromising performance, and developing DDoS countermeasures deployed by Akamai, the world's largest cloud provider. Professor Kuzmanovic co-founded Google's Measurement Lab initiative for monitoring global net neutrality, and the National Science Foundation awarded him with an NSF Career Award for his work on net neutrality. Welcome to the show, Professor.
Thank you so much again. Thank you. It's a great honor to be on the podcast.
Yeah, for our first question, maybe can you explain to us in your simplest manner what is bloXroute and why is it important?
Yes. So bloXroute is, I want to say, I like to say the first layer zero blockchain system that helps scale all blockchains, right? And so basically layer zero means a networking layer, right? Because when we came to this field, layer one was already taken by, it was called the consensus layer. Layer two was on top of it. And we said, listen, you guys are missing one extra layer. So it is a layer zero. It is a networking layer. And basically what we are building is a thing called a blockchain distribution network. My expertise and experience comes from the internet world and from content distribution networks. And basically what we have built is a blockchain distribution network, which is a network really specialized to improve the performance of blockchains. Okay, and so it is compatible with all different all blockchain systems that you can think of, and at the same time, it is compatible with all other layers, right? So if you have a very efficient layer one, for example, if you have some scalability solution there, well, it is going to work strictly better with a networking solution that lies below it. So I'm not sure how effective my introduction was and explanation, but I hope we can dive a little bit deeper during the podcast.
Yeah, I think those are good high-level introduction to bloXroute,
Yes.
Things. You mentioned earlier about bloXroute being a blockchain distribution network, BDN, that basically utilizes, from my reading, a global network of servers optimized for network performance. So based on my understanding, it almost seems like BDN is similar in concept to the content delivery network, CDN. Is that correct?
That basically is a correct statement. However, there are some differences. Of course, it's not exactly the same. So the common things are, we also have a large number of distributed high-end servers around the world. And so we help push data quickly from any of the endpoint to all other nodes in the system. In that context, we are pretty similar to a content distribution network. However, what is different is, contrary to the content distribution network, they're sending data, they're basically, the network itself is fairly transparent to the data that it's sending. Here, we add a piece of software to the endpoint, okay? This is called a gateway, okay? And the whole purpose of a gateway software on the endpoints, which exist in the BDN but doesn't exist in a CDN, is to basically adjust the communication messages and data sent in a blockchain system, okay? To convert messages from the blockchain world into the bloXroute messages, okay? And at the same time, to push the caching of the data all the way to the endpoint, okay? In content distribution network, the caching happens at the edge servers. Here, in our case, we push this caching all the way to the end host. And this is very important because the last mile is the critical one. And hence, if we have our gateways deployed all the way to the endpoints, we are able to significantly improve the performance of the system.
So from my reading, I understand that bloXroute will cache things such that 100 times less data is required to be sent out to the network. So that's how things get speed up. Like But like 100x improvement is a large improvement, right? Like instead of sending 100 megabyte, you're only sending 1 megabyte. How do you do that? Like what's the secret
So
sauce?
basically the key observation is contrary to the content distribution network, where when somebody is sending a movie, somebody is broadcasting a movie, that content is pretty unique. And it's hard to predict what it's going to be, and hence it's hard to compress or do. I mean, people do some compression techniques and stuff like that, but that has its limitations. If you compress by 1.5 or 2x, that's pretty good result, right? So the question is, how do we even go to this larger plates of compression? So basically, the key observation here is that the data in a blockchain systems is fairly deterministic, and it's repeatable. Right? What that means is that transactions are first sent within a system in general, independently of a blockchain system that you're using, and then at some point you have validators or miners who put these transactions in blocks and then decide on their order and send them into the network. Right? This is the basics of blockchain distribution, of blockchains. So basically the key observation is that the data is sent twice. Once you send transactions, and then the second time you're sending these transactions within a block. This creates a huge opportunity for caching, right? Because if you can transmit these transactions to everybody in the system efficiently and cache and use identifiers, short identifiers for these transactions, for example, in Bitcoin or for example, in Ethereum, a transaction could be, for example, 500 bytes, right? Internally, what we do is we represent these 500 bytes with 4 bytes. Okay, so this is more than 100x improvement, okay? And so when a block is sent in a blockchain system, instead of sending the original transaction, we utilize these short identifiers. And hence, for every transaction that is 500 bytes long, we send just 4 bytes. Mm-hmm. And hence, if a block is like 100 megabytes long in the real world, if the raw block is so big, in our world, it becomes much smaller. Mm-hmm. It becomes less than 1 megabyte. Okay. And hence, we utilize this significant redundancy in the data that typically exists pretty strongly in blockchain systems to basically move on and significantly reduce the amount of data. Plus, we send this data more efficiently. We utilize better networking paths, and there are different components of our system that makes it all far more efficient. But these are the basics, and hence we utilize this network-wide caching for blockchains.
So essentially, it's like instead of sending in the block, there's usually the header and then a bunch of transactions. Instead of sending all the full transaction, which is 500 bytes each, you represent it as a 4 byte. But wouldn't this mean that the structure of the block is already changed then?
But just a moment. So basically, this is the type of data that happens between gateways and within the bloXroute network, right? However, the gateway sits next to the blockchain node, mm-hmm. right? And so when the blockchain node talks to our gateway, it looks like it's talking just to another peer, right? And hence, the fact that our gateway compresses the data, sends that to the network, decompresses on the other end, is completely invisible to the blockchain systems.
Okay.
We don't require the blockchain systems to change a single line.
All right.
It is completely transparent to the blockchain systems. However, in the background, what we are doing is we are making things far more efficient.
You know, talking to you and learning about this compression and decompression thing, it makes me feel like, like talking.
This is basically maybe compression may not be the best word here, because typically compression, of course, means reducing the amount of data, but people use this term in different domains differently. So maybe it's not the best term of the compression, but basically it's shortening the amount of data, shrinking the amount of data that needs to be sent through the network.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it feels like I'm talking to like a real world piper from the Silicon Valley show about compressions and like having like high throughput, high output in the network system.
Yes, so this is why I'm trying to make a kind of to explain that we are using no fancy advanced compression techniques that you can people use in different domains. This is far more simple, but far more efficient. Because I mean, tell me another field where you can do more than 100x compression. I mean, that's not easy to get. So we are utilizing this natural kind of feature of the blockchain system in order to make this happen.
So currently on Ethereum, it has a transaction capacity of about 9 transactions per second or 9 TPS. When bloXroute goes on a full capacity on Ethereum, like what would be the theoretical and maybe I should say the practical TPS output that can be achieved?
So basically, we had our experiments with Bitcoin Cash because this is the first blockchain system that we started working. We are really grateful to the Bitcoin Cash community because they're very supportive, and they are the kind of folks that like to talk about the large blocks and so on. So there we had experiments with a large number of nodes on 3 continents, and we were capable of pushing the TPS to more than 1,500 TPS, 1,500 TPS. On Ethereum, I mean, we did some tests internally on the testnet, and we are capable of pushing it, I think, close to 1,000 or so, but it really depends. So basically, Ethereum can scale easily to up to 1,000 transactions, I think, currently, and even more down the road without anything. Like Ethereum 1.0 can do that right now. And so we are working with the largest mining pools on Ethereum. Once we deployed our gateways on these miners, after some time, they increased the block size by 25%, the size of those blocks. And so while we were not on that table when this was decided, we feel that we gave confidence to the community that indeed it's possible to increase the block size without risking any of the security and centralization type of things.
So when will this go live? Like, I understand you guys are working with Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, Ontology. I'm trying to send a transaction on Ethereum and the gas fees are way high. I'm trying to pay with 2 Gwei, but it takes like, I don't know, it's been 2 days and it still doesn't go ahead with this transaction. So I'm looking forward to 1,000 TPS Ethereum. Like when will it go live? Yeah.
So basically, the key behind you were right. The key idea behind bloXroute is to push for scalability. Once you push for once there is a lot of capacity, this is when the cost of sending a transaction on Ethereum goes down, and this we believe is the key force that should help Ethereum or any other blockchain to scale. Now, regarding the deployment, currently we support the Ethereum mainnet. Okay, if you want to send a transaction to bloXroute, you just go on our webpage, you download open source code, you install it on your miner, and you can basically send a transaction. This is one way to do it. Another way is if you don't want to if you just have a wallet and you don't want to install a gateway associated with a node, you can simply install a small code in your wallet, which helps you directly send a transaction to our network without having any gateway or any node, any Ethereum node.
So
this is very useful. Regarding other blockchain systems, we are also supporting Bitcoin Cash. On top of that, we are working hardly on Ontology, and that is going to come pretty soon. And on top of that, we have other blockchains lined up. So we are open-minded, and we are happy to work with any blockchain system that wants to scale, that needs to scale, and that has enough of the ecosystem that we feel is going to be successful down the road.
So let's go back to the example of Ethereum, right? So like I literally tried to do this transaction. I wanted to withdraw some of these DeFi protocol, and I was using MetaMask. So, and I tried to send a transaction with some like low Gwei, but it cost like $10 in like smart contract transaction fee. So I like reduced it to like 2 Gwei, and it's still like $4 or so. Is it how do I use MetaMask and connect to bloXroute and send this transaction with very low gas fee?
So So basically, in order to send a transaction through bloXroute, the endpoint software needs to be bloXroute compatible. That means currently what we do is if you have a mining node, you can simply just install an open source software. If you have any type of open source wallet or anything like that, you can just take a snippet of code from our web page and put it in your application, and you should be able to connect directly to our servers and send data and send transactions directly to us. Okay. Currently, things are all completely free, so now is the best time to actually do it. And so basically, this is how it works.
Okay.
Did I answer? I mean, I'm just trying to.
I feel that it's more relatable for miners, but not really for the end user who's using.
So we are working hardly on that. I mean, you're correct. However, because we figured out that there is a large community out there that doesn't really care about mining or doesn't even have a mining node, but still would like to take this opportunity. This is why we have enabled this small piece of code that you can put in your application, that you can embed in your application. It's very simple to kind of merge with your application, and then you can send things directly to us without even going through anybody else. At the same time, if you're, for example, on Ethereum, if you're using Infura or anybody like that, we are working with these providers, there you can, for example, just select bloXroute as an option. This is coming up pretty soon. And then once you do that, your transactions are directly routed through bloXroute.
All right. So I guess what I'll do is I'll talk to, I'll get the links, the relevant links on how to insert this small code, and then I include it in the show notes below so I can try it out. And if anyone's interested, can try out as well. This.
Correct.
Yeah. So like what will it take for, like, I guess the key thing to scale Ethereum to 1000 TPS would be to get more miners involved. And then all of these miners have to install this code. If they don't install this code, then Ethereum will not be able to scale. So it's kind of like you got to get the buy-ins from all these miners, all these mining tools to install and to scale Ethereum, right? It's kind of very bottoms-up approach.
Yes. So we understand that, and this is why we started working with miners from day zero. And basically, currently we are supporting, I believe, more than 70% of the mining hash rate on Ethereum. So we have the largest mining pools like Spark Pool, Lepto Pool, Ethermine, and we are also talking to others because actually it appears that we are capable of even helping even more the smaller mining pools, right? Because if you are a large mining pool, we improve them. However, the smaller ones are even more disadvantaged, and then having smaller mining pools deploy is beneficial. And so we are definitely working hard on increasing the number of miners that we are working with. And at the same time, we are working with the end users, with distributed DApps, with aggregators such as Infura and others, right? With large trading firms and whoever has any reason to send transactions on chain. And so once we have a sufficient amount of deployment, this is when the things can start moving up.
What would be that cutoff point? Like, do you need 50% adoption or 60, 70%?
So, I mean, there is no magic number. The more, the better. And actually, the system can still operate quite well, even if you don't have the full deployment. It can move up. However, at some point, if you really want to push the system all the way to the high TPS rate, then those who really want to be part of that high scale system would need to deploy blocks now.
Right? Where are we right now? Like, are we somewhere around 20%, 40%? Do you have that in mind? Or?
Say again, where are we in terms of?
Where are we right now? Are we at 20% deployment, 50% for like maybe Ethereum?
Currently in terms of the hash power, we have more than 70% of the hash power.
On Ethereum?
Yeah, on Ethereum. Okay. And so this is really, we think, a pretty good number. And at the same time, we are working hard on bringing in more transaction generating entities, right? That will be wallets, that will be aggregators and many other entities, so that we can actually, the whole community can move to this better position, which is higher transaction per second rate, which is good for everybody. I mean, everybody is benefiting at when the system is scalable. So this basically is our mission.
So if we are at 70% deployment for Ethereum miners, does that mean that like Ethereum is no longer has a higher transaction limit right now? It's no longer 9 TPS, but maybe like, I don't know, 200 TPS already at this point in time?
So that really depends on the miners. Okay, miners are the ones who can decide how and when to increase the block size up to some limit, right? And so I think easily this can go, even right now with this level of deployment of bloXroute, I think it can go easily to double or triple that number without any problems. However, to push forward, it would be great to have even more, even larger deployment of miners, because then nobody's left behind. And miners have no barrier of entrance. Our code is open source. We charge miners nothing, and so it's really a very simple game in our mind.
My next question actually is, if every miner is connected to bloXroute's BDN through this gateway that you talk, every node is connected to this gateway, wouldn't this represent some sort of a centralization risk to the entire ecosystem?
We get this question a lot, and we keep explaining that that's not the case. But let me explain how it works. So basically, indeed, we recommended that the nodes connect to bloXroute because bloXroute is the fastest route. However, we do not tell the miners, or we do not advise anybody to say, hey, don't connect to others. We still need a peer-to-peer network. However, peer-to-peer network is needed as an auditing tool to kind of you still need a backup, right? And so basically, the peer-to-peer network is needed to have the guarantees that even if bloXroute goes down or something happens, you can still have the things going up, things going through, right? So think of bloXroute as just like improving the existing peer-to-peer network without getting rid of the peer-to-peer network itself, right? And this makes nodes independent from bloXroute, and they have failover paths. So in case things go wrong for the technical reasons, they can still have their blocks sent, and so the system still survives independent of bloXroute. So bloXroute is not a single point of failure, and at the same time, it is only providing an improvement over an existing system, which we don't change in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it's kind of like thinking of it, you say like a faster peer in the list of peer-to-peer nodes, right?
Yeah, faster peer, but we don't recommend that you abandon all other peers, right? We just say, hey, this is great, and you can only benefit from this, but still you have backup paths, you have all these other routes, and hence it is a compromise that still gives you a better performance, but you're not giving up the kind of peer-to-peer and decentralized nature of a blockchain system. I mean, in short, this is how I would put it.
Is there anyone else working on layer 0 solutions like what you guys are doing right now, or you guys are the only game in town?
I'm aware of I mean, there are people providing strictly better networking kind of support for blockchains. Like, hey, you know what? If you are, for example, in a part of the world that is not very well connected to the rest of the world, if you use leased paths or something like that, you can experience better performance and stuff like that. Now, what I want to say about bloXroute is that we are not, I mean, we are layer zero and we are a networking solution, but we are not strictly a networking solution. We are basically, because there is a lot of so-called magic happening in the background, right? All the caching, all the hard work, all the synchronization of data. It's not simply, let's have a better network. That doesn't give you scale at all, right? To get to scale, you have to do a much bigger work, which is you need to quickly transmit transactions to the system. You need to cache them at the endpoints. Then when blocks are sent, you need to compress them to again send them throughout. So networking is absolutely, I mean, I'm 100% a networking person. That's where my expertise is from. But it's not just networking. It's more like a kind of a smart networking in a cloud. Right? It's smart things in the background that you need to do versus simply speeding up the data. Speeding up the data is great, but it has its limitations.
What are your thoughts about layer 1 and layer 2 scalability solution? Which solution do you think will bring the highest impact in increasing each blockchain transaction output?
So, I mean, I'm really familiar with all different, there are many creative things on layer 1, layer 2. And typically when people ask me, so are these your competitors? Are they, are you competing against them? I'm saying no. I mean, we at layer 0 are capable of strictly improving the performance and helping any other solution. Is it layer 1 or layer 2? It doesn't matter, right? And so there are obviously some pretty good solutions. People are talking about sharding. I think that is coming pretty soon. I mean, in some shape or form. And of course, that's an interesting approach. There are these layer 2 solutions where you put on some money on this, some coins on the side, and then you do off-chain transactions. All of these things make sense. And I'm not against, I mean, typically in the blockchain world, I realize that people are very opinionated and they like to say, no, my solution is the best, not somebody else's. I mean, we are ourselves, we are not a blockchain at all, right? And so we are a system to help scale other blockchains. If these blockchain systems are already quite advanced, more advanced than the first generation blockchain systems like Bitcoin, for example, you have now ontology, you have Conflux. I mean, we are working with these projects. They already have a pretty advanced layer 1, some even layer 2 approaches. But when I come to them, I tell them, that's all great. Good luck with that. I mean, we really like what you're doing. However, the generic problem is you still have transactions that you need to transmit to distributed nodes. And then you have blocks that need to somehow reach, everybody has to be synchronized on what is happening in the system, okay? And to do that, you really, really do need a really strong networking cloud solution, which is basically what we are providing.
And you guys currently support Bitcoin, or is that somewhat in the plan to support Bitcoin blockchain in the next 1 year or so?
BTC, well, basically, Bitcoin itself, of course, is the biggest and the most valuable whatever cryptocurrency and blockchain. We, of course, initially started working with Bitcoin Cash at the time, then they fought for Bitcoin because they were the ones pushing for scalability. Bitcoin community is more organized towards, is more focused on like this proof of value type of idea. They're saying we don't want to scale on-chain. Basically, you can have layer 2 and other things to scale that stuff. And so basically, we are compatible with Bitcoin. And basically, we run our nodes against Bitcoin because it's a very, very well-structured, well-organized blockchain, and hence we check how well we are doing by simply measuring ourselves against Bitcoin. However, for political, ideological, or whatever you want, philosophical reasons, they are not into on-chain scaling, and we respect that. But there are many other blockchains that say, hey, we do need blockchain scaling, and so we we go after and we collaborate with those who believe that having a scalable blockchain at layer 0 is fundamental.
I believe you guys have a bloXroute token called BLXR, right? What would be its token model? Will it be what blockchain will the token be issued on, and how will it work when you guys have this scalability solution across these various different blockchains?
Yes, and this is an interesting thing. So basically, we started thinking early on, like, hey, how do we? I mean, we are a blockchain. We are not a blockchain ourselves, but we are a blockchain company. And then we were thinking, like, hey, if you're a blockchain company, we need to have a token, right? What blockchain company doesn't have a token? So basically, our approach was to simply have a security type of token, okay, and that all the revenues. The idea is, of course, there is a fixed number of BLXR tokens ever, like 10 million BLXR tokens, okay? Then all the revenues from all the different blockchain systems that we are serving and all the revenues that we collect, 100% of those revenues are directly streamlined to the holders of the BLXR token. And so it's very, very simple. So if you own, for example, 10% of the BLXR tokens, right? And in one day we earn 10 Bitcoins, you immediately earn 1 Bitcoin on the same day. It immediately directly goes to your pocket and you can do with that whatever you like, okay? And so it is a simple dividend-based model where the holder of the token is getting directly, not profits, because when you have a company, then the company has its own bills to pay and stuff like that, and hence shareholders actually at the end of the year share the profits. Here, we directly fuel the revenues created by the blocks BDN network directly to the holders of it. And so we think it's a fair system. I mean, people liked it, like the investors. And the model is pretty well known. I mean, dividends have been around for more than 100 years, I believe. So it's a very, very simple and very transparent system. And so that's the key idea behind the BLXR.
And what would be, how would the BLXR token gain revenue? So like if you use the bloXroute network, you have to pay some sort of fee to use it.
Yes. So basically the key idea currently our system is completely free to use. However, we are going to have a system, a two-tier system, where if you are sending small number of transactions, hence if you're just an individual user and you are not you don't generate a lot of traffic, then it's completely free forever. Okay. However, if you are large traffic to the network, for example, more than 100 transactions a day, this is when a tiny fee comes into play. And so basically, this is how we bring up revenues. Okay, how we gain revenues from all blockchain systems that we serve. And then those revenues are directly tunneled to the holders of our token, and hence they can decide to keep it on their accounts or just take and then do whatever they like with their money.
And when it's paid, like it's paid in a BLXR token, I suppose, right? So if there's a fee to pay, you'll be paid.
No. The fee can be paid in any currency. It can be in the native currency of that particular token. It can be, you can pay it in US dollars. You can pay. It's really independent from. It's not paid in BLXR for sure. So BLXR is just a holder, just an account that holds all these different currencies, and then you are free to do whatever you like in real time with that money.
Okay. And will this BLXR token be traded on some exchange at some point, or is this because it's a security, is only limited to a selected group of people who purchase?
So this is a big issue. I mean, we had this discussion. We were founded in 2017. And ever since we had a lot of discussions, I mean, we of course, our intent from the very beginning was to make all this 100% legal so that people don't think like, oh, I have this token, is it legal, is it not legal, whatever. And very soon we figured out that this is going to be a utility token, right? And hence, this is how it is structured. And so basically, currently we had several rounds of token sale. However, this was a Reg D sale, hence it was only for accredited investors. We are working hard, and we hope that sometimes in the future we are going to be able to offer a Reg A plus type of a sale, which would enable us to sell the token to the wider community, and you don't have to be a accredited investor or anything like that, right? And regarding the where it could be traded, there are a few exchanges already that are working with the security type of tokens, and so we are going to be traded there. And I think we are going to be traded the trade is going to start within 1 year or so.
Yeah, it sounds like what the Blockstack guys are doing. They did a Reg A plus sale as well, and then
yes, they were pioneers in that domain, and we talked to them and to I mean we understand the way they did things, and so we think that Reg A plus can be even better than that, can be even less restricted and more open. And so we are hopeful that we will be able to get there, because our idea is to make this available to everybody. This is how we think we can strengthen our position, so people can actually see benefits from investing in us.
Yeah, sounds very interesting. Looking forward to it. So maybe one last
yes.
two questions. Like, what is the plan for BloXroute in 2020 and beyond, I guess?
In 2020 and onwards, so basically our key I mean, currently we are really focused on Ethereum, because of course there's so many different blockchains that we are working with. However, we really want to kind of close the circle on Ethereum, right? And what that means is that in addition to having already 70% of the miners, we want to push that boundary to above 90% at least of the hash power on Ethereum. And on top of that, we really are into getting clients. Getting clients means getting the apps, getting aggregators, getting really the whole Ethereum community on bloXroute. This is really our primary goal. On top of that, we are also working closely currently with Ontology, and we are about to, I think, release our network for Ontology sometime during the year. This is definitely the case. We are working in also with some other blockchains. These are Quorum, Conflux, and a few others. And so our goal is to thus keep pushing and getting. I mean, we're not really that interested in supporting each and every blockchain out there, because different blockchains have different fate, and not everybody is equally advanced. But those who we believe reach a threshold of becoming a real thing and becoming that can really generate, really attract a lot of users and can generate a lot of traffic, these are the ones that we are interested in moving forward with. And so, but in principle, we are open-minded to and open to all blockchains out there.
Sounds very exciting. Looking forward to seeing all these plans come to fruition this year. So, okay, last question. Promise, no more after this.
Yes.
Someone's interested to learn about BloXroute. What's the best place to follow and learn more?
The best way to learn about BloXroute, come to our website and go to the. We have quite good videos, short videos about, hey, this is how BloXroute works. Then there are pretty good short presentations, maybe 20-25 minutes, where you can see Uri talk about, I talk about, or Eleni talk about that, talk about BloXroute. And so just watch one of those talks, and I think things are going to be much clearer for you. That's the case. In addition, we also have this kind of educational videos, right? So we have our developers are going to talk about some feature of bloXroute and so on. So we are really trying hard to kind of reach out to the broader community. So, I mean, not everybody is technology oriented, but we want to kind of simplify it so people don't have to waste a lot of time, but still get a pretty good sense of what is that we're doing and what we're up.
Yeah, I agree. Like I watched some of the videos on your site. I was really confused about what bloXroute does, and after watching it, it's really easy to understand what you guys are doing. So I'll add all these links in the footnote. Professor Aleksandar Kuzmanovic, thank you very much for taking the time to come on the CoinGecko podcast. I think I definitely learned a lot. I hope all of you learned this a lot as well. So,
thank you. It was a great pleasure, and I look forward whenever we have any big news. I'm happy to come and tell you about it.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thank you very much again.
Thank you.
Okay.